Welcome back to my channel at The Movie Optimist, where I find the silver linings in even the worst of films. Today, I just got done watching a film that I guarantee none of y'all heard of called Freaky Tales. This movie is written and directed by the same people that brought you Captain Marvel a couple years ago, and it stars a slew of people, but most notably Pedro Pascal. Now, the reason why I knew about it, whereas in so many people don't, is because I'm really deep in the lore of filmmaking and movies and all things Hollywood. I know a lot of people don't like Hollywood. They think they're pompous and a bunch of arrogant assholes or whatever, but I really want to be a filmmaker. So I'm constantly following actors that I like. I'm constantly looking up their IMDb pages to see what upcoming projects they have. And this was one of them. And I was like, wow, this sounds like a really cool movie that had no marketing. Nobody knew this movie existed. And then the only marketing they actually did for this film is just drop one trailer on YouTube a couple months ago, and that was it. So if you didn't see it drop on YouTube that day, it wasn't gonna be in an algorithm because nobody watched the trailer, so it just kind of disappeared into oblivion. But then here I am, #1 fan of movies, and I was really excited about it. So when I saw it was coming to a local AMC by me, I bought my ticket immediately. Now, I checked to see other theaters that this movie could be playing in. It was not. It wasn't playing in Regals. It wasn't playing in Showcase Cinemas, just AMC. So it's a super small budget film, super indie project, and it has a very limited release. But if you do live near an AMC and you're a fan of movies outside of just blockbusters, I recommend giving this a try. Anyway, essentially, this movie is kind of told in a Pulp Fiction-like way where it follows 4 different groups of people and you see how their lives are all affected by this one group of Nazis in the late 1980s. I believe it took place in 1987. Whereas in the first act of the film, you're following a bunch of kids. They're like these punk rockers and they all hang out in this abandoned warehouse, and this other group of teenagers that are Nazis come by and keep picking on them and bullying them and beating the shit out of them and destroying their musical equipment and just being really, really mean to them the way that Nazis usually are. And it gets to a point where the punk rock kids eventually say, enough is enough, we're gonna fight back. And it's kind of how they prepare to fight off these Nazis the next time they come around and try and pick on them. The second act is about these 2 girls that during the day work at an ice cream parlor, but at night they go out and they pursue their rap careers. And over the course of their little skit, their little 25 minutes in this movie, you see kind of how their lives are affected by the Nazis. Then in the third act, we're following Pedro Pascal, who plays a bruiser or a fixer. He's essentially hired to rough up people that owe other people money. But when we pick up with his story arc, he's actually about to retire because his girlfriend is about to give birth to a child, and he wants to focus on being a good father, a good lover to her, and not be out on the streets every night hurting people for money. And we see how, again, the Nazis interfere with his life. And then the fourth act of the film, we follow this guy, Sleepy Joe Floyd or something. I can't remember his name, but he's based off of a basketball player. And essentially one night, while he's at a really big game, those Nazis break into his house and try and rob his safe. But things take a really dark turn for the worst and puts the Nazis in the crosshairs of Sleepy Joe Floyd, who wants to get revenge on them for what they did to his home while he was away on his game. Now, while I'm watching this movie, I'm trying to figure out why we're getting these 4 drastically different stories. I get it, they were all affected by this one same group of Nazis, but where is this all gonna connect? And in the fourth act, I thought it connected really well, and it showed you how all of their lives really were interwoven beneath the surface, and I thought it was a really satisfying payoff to see how it all connected. And that's why I'm saying it's kind of like a Pulp Fiction-like movie, because that movie was told in a very similar way, where you have John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson's story, you have Bruce Willis's story, and everything connects in these little ways where they all kind of cross paths, and this movie was definitely paying homage to that. Now, Pulp Fiction, it is not. Quentin Tarantino is a master at filmmaking and a master at dialogue. Some of the best dialogue on the planet in terms of movies has come from Quentin Tarantino. I keep going back to the Inglourious Basterds scene. The opening scene with Christoph Waltz is one of the greatest scenes of all time, where there's literally nothing happening except for Christoph Waltz sitting at a table talking to this guy, and it's the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. Here, like I said, Pulp Fiction is not. The dialogue is nowhere near as good as a Quentin Tarantino film, but it's good enough that I could respect the homage they're trying to pay to Quentin Tarantino and pay to Pulp Fiction. Now, this movie, right off the bat, had a winning formula for me. I just love watching Nazis getting beaten and killed. I love it in Indiana Jones, and I loved it here. And whereas in Indiana Jones, they do it in a very family-friendly way, here you're literally watching Nazis getting their arms ripped off, sliced in half, they're getting decapitated, their heads exploding. It is really violent, and it's all done with practical effects, which I really appreciate, because I hate when movies overuse CGI blood. It just doesn't look as good, but here, it was a lot of fun watching these Nazis get absolutely destroyed. Now, in terms of the 4 arcs, in order of my favorite to least favorite, my favorite was the Sleepy Joe basketball player one. He has the most action to do. He has this really great revenge arc where he wants to kill all of these Nazis, and he has a lot of great fighting choreography, and it's just the funnest part of the movie. My second favorite part is Pedro Pascal's arc, where we're seeing him try to kind of step away from this really violent life and how that life just won't let him go. You've seen this 1,000 times in movies before where they want to step away from this life, but just like in the Mafia, the only way you get to leave is in a body bag. There's a lot of bad people that don't want him to walk away, and seeing him kind of deal with that and the ramifications of him trying to leave was really intriguing to me. My third favorite part is the punk rockers who have enough and decide to finally fight back against the Nazis, and all of that was really cool too. It was kind of like a Warriors-like moment where you just see the Nazis and the punk rockers meet up in the middle of the street in the middle of the night and have this big brawl. Really epic, really well done. And my least favorite part and the last part is the part with the 2 girls trying to pursue their rap career. I still don't really know what significance that had with the rest of the film, other than those 2 girls crossing paths with some of the punk rockers in the very beginning. But again, it just really didn't mean anything. They could have took that part out, shaved 20 minutes off of the film, and it would have been the exact same thing. And I'm not a fan of rap. I don't hate it. It's just not music I gravitate towards. So when it gets to their part in the movie, it's literally 20 minutes of them preparing to get up on this stage and have like a rap battle with this famous rapper in this movie. And then you get to see that play out for like 15 minutes. So you're seeing this rap battle happen, and then it kind of just ends and goes to the next skit. And I was like, why was that here? But that being said, that was really the only part I didn't like about this movie. Their arc, and there was some cheesy dialogue, but at the end of the day, this was a really cool, really fun, nostalgic 1980s retro fever trip of a movie. And I mean exactly that. This movie feels like a love letter to these crazy, bombastic, over-the-top science fiction metal movies that you got in the 1980s that you might find on like the Blockbuster shelf that you never even heard of. It feels like a love letter to things that we haven't gotten in a really long time. Yes, this is a gritty crime movie that has to do with Nazis, but it's also injected with supernatural elements, which I wasn't expecting, where some of the characters have this weird green glow that appears around them whenever shit's about to hit the fan, and they never really establish whether or not they're actually getting like magical powers or getting a boost of like power or anything like that, but it just makes for like a really cool visual representation of the fact that shit is about to go down, where when a fight's about to happen, you see like green lightning and thunder striking in the background, and it has a very metal soundtrack. Feels very like if they infused They Live with Pulp Fiction. That's kind of what you get here. The supernatural elements might turn some people off if you're a diehard fan of things like Pulp Fiction and Quentin Tarantino, but I promise you it's so minuscule, and it gives the movie its own character. It gives it its own little thing to stand out amongst the other movies that are shot in a way like this that's told from different perspectives, and I really enjoyed it, and it made for a really cool showdown at the end of this film, where if it wasn't for these abilities, this one specific character that goes on an absolute Nazi rampage at the end wouldn't have been able to go on in a believable way if they didn't establish the fact that some of these characters have this gift in them that allows them to be just absolute total badasses. And yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. We do not get movies like this often. It is very rare when we come across a movie like this. I love when directors take a swing at a unique idea like this. It's definitely more of an artsy film, but again, it's about a bunch of people killing Nazis. How could you not want to show up and support that? I'm going to give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. It's really good. It's really enjoyable. There is one act of the film that I think is kind of useless. The dialogue's a little bit cheesy, and some of the CGI, when there is CGI, isn't great because it's a really low budget film, but it has a great, fun, entertaining story. And if you're looking for that next Pulp Fiction-like thing, or you just want to see more people like Indiana Jones battling Nazis, this movie delivers it in spades in really violent, bloody, super R-rated ways. So please, if you live near an AMC and you enjoy movies that aren't Avengers or Star Wars or Jurassic Parks, go out and show this movie a little bit of support. And if nothing else, I'm sure it'll be on streaming in like 2 weeks. Look for it there. It's called Freaky Tales. It's starring Pedro Pascal. I really don't think you'll regret it. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Did you even know this movie existed before I started talking about it? And if you have you seen it already? Let's talk about it down below, guys. And as always, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll catch you next time.